5th, 2022 meeting of the Independence Township Zoning Board of Appeals. If you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Brian, if we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Auger?
Present.
Mr. Effing?
Present.
Mr. Galley?
Here.
Mr. Charles?
Here.
And Mr. Zurich?
Yes, here.
Okay, so we're all present, and therefore we have a quorum tonight. We'd like to take a look at the agenda tonight. We have various sections on our agenda, public comment, which we'll have in a minute, unfinished business, new business, and then approval of minutes. Gentlemen, if you've had a chance to review the agenda, if there's any changes or modifications?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, support, all in favor of accepting the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Well, welcome everybody tonight. Appreciate you coming. What we'll do is, as I say, we'll move through our meeting tonight. First item on the agenda is a call to public comment. So this is an opportunity that anybody in the audience or anybody online can speak to the Township ZBA board and therefore our community about anything that is not on the agenda. So if anybody here tonight has anything to talk about not on the agenda, please approach the podium. Brian, do we have anybody online? Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll move on to our business at hand. We have no unfinished business, so we'll move right to new business. Tonight we have three items on the agenda. The way we'll do this is I'll call each agenda item. I'll read it into the record, the applicant, and what the various points of the application are asking for. At that point, the applicant will come up to the podium. We'll ask you to give us your name, your address, and then just kind of walk us through your application, what it is you're asking for, why is it different from what the ordinance would typically allow, and then we'll have essentially question and answer so that we fully understand the application. At that point, then we'll turn it over to the audience. The audience is welcome to come up one at a time to the podium, introduce yourself with your name and your address, and then let us know why you're here tonight for that particular agenda item. I will ask that anybody that speaks tonight, if you haven't already, please sign in at the table by the door. That way, as we go through the minutes, we'll have your name and your address so that we know all the various people have spoken tonight. After the public speaks, likely we'll bring the applicant back up to the podium, ask potentially some follow-up questions. The board may deliberate between ourselves, and then ultimately we'll seek to make some type of a movement, potentially either approve, deny, table, ask for more information, whatever might be appropriate based on that case. And then we'll move on to the next agenda. So with that, I will call case number 22-021, Sam Crizzy, petitioner requesting a variance from section 12.04B to permit a new sign to be located on the front property line of 4580 Sashabaw Road, which is in the R1A Single Family Residential District. Mr. Crizzy? Please, thank you. Come up here.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
We have applied for a sign on the
Excuse me,
property
sir.
that's
If you
on
could
the
just
screen there.
if you could just give us your name and your address, just so we have
Oh,
that for the
sure,
record.
sorry. My name is Sam Kizzy, K-I-Z-Y, 42732 Merrill Road, Sterling Heights, Michigan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have applied for a sign on that property that is shown on the screen there. Is a 3x3 sign. It used to be, the pole that is there is existing pole. There was a sign on it, was a much larger sign than what it is now. And when we talked to the inspector, he allowed us 3x3 sign there. We are trying to light it. Of course, it's going to be internally lit with LEDs, the new technology of today. It's not going to be that bright, of course, but we realize that it's on a main street and stuff like that. And this business has been open for about 4 years, I believe.
The business for a year and a half.
About a year and a half, okay. And they've been without a sign, and they've been struggling. So we would appreciate an opportunity to put a sign there, so at least they can run their business the right way. And as the slogan says, business with no sign is sign of no business. So, you know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Krizzi. Now, if I'm correct, there is a pretty large sign on the building, correct? That there's just not a sign on the pole currently.
Was there a sign on the building?
I'm just on the garage door because I had to have some kind of sign. I wrote it myself.
Okay, but there's a big painted sign.
They put that temporarily there so they can
Okay,
at least
And-
have something.
I appreciate it. And to be clear, so the variance tonight that we mentioned, section 12.04, that's really in terms of the location of the sign. So the variance that's being considered is not whether or not there should be a sign, but whether or not that sign should be in its previous location. Typically, on a property like this, the sign should be 15 foot back from the property line, from the road right of way. In this case, the pre-existing condition, it's a narrow property. The previous sign was really probably right up on the right of way or within a few feet of the right of way. So, Brian, if I understand correctly, it's the location of the sign essentially that's in contrast to the ordinance.
Correct. The sign location actually appears in the aerial photography, from what we can tell, actually in the right-of-way. So any decision tonight should be contingent upon road commission approval of the sign being located where that pedestal is
Okay,
currently.
thank you. Mr. Krizzi, before I open it up to the zoning board for individual questions, is there anything else we should know about the application, the location, details of the sign? You've mentioned that it'll be internally lit with LEDs. Obviously, we assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the sign will be in compliance with the township sign ordinance in terms of no moving letters and the correct.
No, that's internally lit. So the letters that are going to be on the face is not, they're not changeable or rechangeable or whatever, no.
Okay, so it's
They
not a,
stay- they
not a
stay
display
just
screen,
like
it's
they are.
just the light bulbs are in the inside.
No,
Thank you.
sure.
With that, we'll start on my right tonight. Mr. Auger, do you have any questions?
Yeah, as Brian mentioned, when I looked at the site, I looked at the aerials, this is out in the right-of-way. This board, a couple years ago, allowed a sign to go on the property line at White Lake Commons on White Lake Road. And I just noticed that they have replaced it. If this board gives permission for this sign, it's forever. At White Lake Commons, they could replace the sign, but they couldn't alter it. That sign, because it's out at the property line, obscures the vision of the people pulling up to White Lake Road. Consequently, the safety path is right there. It blocks their vision of the safety path. It is constantly having accidents because the sign is too far forward. I'm opposed to any location that's not back at least 15 feet, the length of a car away from the property line.
Okay. Thank you. Ken, any questions, comments?
I understand you want to use the pole where it was, and I don't remember the Coach's Corner business that was there 10 years ago. Probably used that sign, I don't really remember, but is there any thought in your mind about relocating the sign off to the side in the grass or something, or you just want to use this pole?
It is actually, the pole is in the grass area right now. There's,
It's in a
There's a
small landscape island.
yeah, a small little area there that where the sign was to begin with anyways. I mean, you know, it's been there for quite a few years. As a matter of fact, the real estate sign was mounted on that pole before this one also. You know, and that's what shows over there. It's a grassy area. It's not
Okay.
like this.
I guess I hear what you're saying. me personally, I'm hesitating on approving the sign where you want it. I just assume move it farther back.
Yeah.
I'm all set.
Brian, any questions, thoughts?
I don't really have any questions, per se. I'm just trying to think of what an alternative location would look like and if it would be any less safe or more safe. I mean, as you go north, the slope increases. That road next to the building is higher than the building, correct? It's kind of an uphill there.
The road on the
Myers
north side
Road.
of it,
Yeah, on the north.
yeah, it's higher. And that's one reason why the building sign, if there's a building, a sign on the building, it doesn't show. Because of the, until you really get to the building to see what it is and what is not. And the traffic there is, at that speed, doesn't show what it is. It doesn't show, you know, you have to stop and read what the business is. At least this sign over here, it will identify the business from a little bit of distance so people can see what it is. You know, what kind of business it is.
I mean, I guess my position would be with the removal of the garage temporary sign and OCRC approval, which who knows if they'll get it or not. The only alternative location on the property line would be farther to the south, which puts it closer to the road than it is now, because the property line angles out.
Yeah, unfortunately, there isn't any other place that we can put a sign on the ground.
So if you put it 15 feet off the right of way, then it's behind the trees. Is anybody gonna see it? Not, that's all I have for now.
Mr. Sharrow?
Couple of things. The nature of your business is a hairstyling.
Yes, a boutique.
Are most of your customers by appointment?
Excuse me, if you're gonna speak, if you could come up to the lectern and just introduce yourself so that we can have you on the TV.
Hi, my name is Salma Miko, and I am a hairdresser and a boutique owner. And so since we didn't have a sign and the funding, I actually added the wording on the garage door. So, and we finally got some funding, and if we do change the area, then it's gonna cost me a lot more money to put the electricity on the other side or the other side. So the sign was already there with the electricity and the lighting. So we're just asking for it just to be in the same place where Coach's Corner was, or the other entities, I guess.
Right.
Scott Lock and Key.
Okay, great, thank you. Jim?
As the question I ask, is most of your business by appointment?
No. Because
No?
I am a new business, so I'm creating new business, walk-ins. I have walk-ins also, half and half, I would say.
Okay. I don't know how this board can approve a sign that isn't on the property. The sign is clearly in the Oakland County right-of-way.
It was already there, so I
That-
can't change that.
Granted, but you're asking for something that, right now it's a post. It's not a sign.
Right, I was.
And I
don't know
believe
what it
that
was
there is
before.
adequate space in the southeast corner of this property. If you have to do a little bit of clearing, that'd be fine, and I think the sign could be placed 15 feet off the right-of-way, and no variance would be needed.
We would have to cut some trees down, and our neighbors here are next door, and I don't think
If-
that's,
Well, that's
and
that's
we
what
don't
the
have
ordinance
electricity
applies for.
there. That's gonna cost us another $10,000, so I just don't have
take
the
down a
funding.
tree.
Should take down the trees, put the electrical pole there and all that. That's a lot of, it's something I couldn't afford right now.
Okay.
Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think this board can consider financial hardship.
You're correct about that. So, with that, I appreciate your thoughts. What we'll do is we'll open up to the public now, get any additional comments or questions from the public, then we'll ask you to come back up and answer some more questions. Thank you. So, at this point, if anybody from the public would like to speak on this case, please come up to the lectern and introduce yourself, and then just let us know what your thoughts are.
Gary Lieber, 4275 Myers. I'm like the second house in. I've been there since 1984. One of the Scott's Lock and Key and Coach's Corner. Actually, the sign I fixed 3 times already, or when Dave owned it. The only thing I was worried about the traffic, but it's the same size, so it's not gonna affect anybody. We've had it there since '84 when I moved here. She's doing a heck of a good job. Like most of the neighbors that I've talked to, everybody likes the job she's doing. I'm just thinking with the Sashabaw traffic going up as fast as they go, actually a few years ago we tried to sell our house and we had 25 people look at it and they all complained about the traffic noise. So people are flying and they really can't see the sign or what the business is unless they're stuck in a traffic jam.
Why, Mr. Lieber, why'd you have to fix the sign 3 times?
It was hanging down.
It just fell down. In other words, no one
I
hit
don't
it.
know if you knew Dave or not, but he had 3 businesses to run and he was kind of rode hard and put away wet when he came home, so.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this? We've got someone coming up and then you'll be next.
Oh, I'm
Thanks.
sorry, I
Nope,
can't see
nope.
behind me.
Good evening.
Good evening, Sam Morocco, 8815 Pine Knob Road. I've just got some general points and questions I want to bring up on the property. I'm familiar with it. I was working with the 2 owners ago before it as a potential commercial build-out spot when it was finished as the Coach's Corners and Scott's Lock and Key. And at that time, we were told by Dick Carlisle that if the use didn't stay consistent, that the underlying zoning would not carry through as commercial, because we all know it's residential. The building sat abandoned for 5 years. It's changed ownership 3 times since Scott's Lock and Key. And then in 2019, you guys gave them a use variance. I'm not sure why it wasn't a special land use going from residential to commercial after the underlying zoning was abandoned. The use was abandoned, but somehow it came to you guys, and in 2019 you approved the use of it to be a boutique. Immediately, Brian's first question, I have the minutes from that meeting in 2019, was like, who approved it to be commercial? The answer given was that there was records of it being commercial in the past, and that was accepted by this board as a good enough reason to let it remain a commercial property after the commercial use had been abandoned and it had changed owners a few times. So I do have issues with how that works in the township, because it makes it hard for us to clean up these non-conforming properties when it can just keep going no matter who owns it and how long it's been not being used as that use. So that's issue 1. Then Mr. Sharo commented about the parking. It's very dangerous there. They're backing up into oncoming traffic on Sashaba if they back out too far. Immediately, I can't remember if it was Jim or Brian that brought up there was no site plan that was presented at the use variance, which we find, I find that unusual that there wasn't even a site plan. So you guys couldn't see the math on the 20-foot parking space, then a 20-foot truck. Put you right on the road line when you're backing out. So it was identified from everyone here that it's a very dangerous site to be commercial. The use variance was granted under the condition that she was the only person running the business and that it was a clothing boutique. And that softened up the dangerousness of the parking situation. Now it's a multi-station hair salon. So the use variance has changed from the original use variance, and now you're talking about granting her permission to have a commercial sign on it. So that's another thing that I think needs to be looked at. And I'm not trying to get her, not to be in business there, but I do think that the township's putting themselves at risk of that site being so dangerous. There's not even a curb that would prevent a person from backing into traffic on Sashaba Road. If the sign moves back into the line, then there's no way for one-way traffic to work, Now that the use has changed, if the variance is even still valid, I think you guys need to consider the occupancy loads that change with a multi-station hair salon also. So, again, these are points that are more safety-driven, not use-driven, but I think that the whole process has kind of kept going, and it probably shouldn't have, but I would like to request that even if you give them the sign or you don't get the sign, that the zoning board gets a copy of the site plan, either planning commission or you guys review it and put some safety measures in place for her customers that are going there, and make sure that the site's gonna be safe, because right now it's really not. And it's, now that the use has changed, it's a whole different ballgame. So, thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you. Brian, is the building department has looked at the current use, and it certainly is an unusual site. It's not a traditional modern-day strip plaza type setting with circulation, but what is the township's role in occupancy and safety review at this point?
Well, that's certainly the building department's purview. The initial use variance was for the boutique. I don't know what her salon capabilities are. It sounds like it's her. That's it. I don't know. But the use variance was the proper mechanism to bring this forward, because it was a non-conforming use on a non-conforming lot of record. So that, you know, in consultation with the planning consultant, that was the avenue that was, you know, sought, was the use variance, and that's the proper measures. Now, if she's violating that use or going beyond the boutique, that's clearly a violation of the variance, and that cannot occur. So this is, you know, so.
So do we take that back to the building department and?
Yeah, we have to do I mean, a change of use like that is gonna trigger all kinds of different requirements from a building perspective. And we don't know what work's been done in there beyond the boutique, which was provided during the process for the use variance.
Okay. What's the mechanism will the building department follow up on that?
Yeah, I mean, we can have our building official go out there and take a look.
Okay.
Because the previous building official signed off on all of this, so, at the time.
Okay, yeah, as long as that is part of the township's operating procedure to follow up on it. There's someone else in the audience? Please.
Can I also speak later after?
Sure. We'll call you as the applicant back up at the end.
Hi, my name is Carol Ward. I live on 4595, basically almost across the street, the one with the long driveway, Sashaba and Meyer. School bus stopped there for 27 plus years since I've been there. There's a sign, I don't see a problem in a sign going there that's the same size. So I just wanted to voice my opinion. I'm for the sign. It's the
Okay.
same size of the ones that have been there over the years.
Appreciate that, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this agenda item? None, as the applicant to come back up and
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to
Brian?
let the board know that I did receive a comment about
thank you.
They were not, from a resident in the area who was notified, they would request that the sign not even be lit. They just felt the light, with the ambient light from the internally lit sign would cast light across the lake and things like that, so.
So we had one correspondence that was not necessarily against the sign, but was against
yeah,
it being lit.
It was verbal
Okay,
on the phone.
thank you. So I'll, before we ask any additional questions or have feedback, I visited the site today and drove up and down Sashaba, and of course, most residents have been up and down Sashaba, that area 100 times. So speaking for myself personally, I'm certainly always thrilled to have successful businesses in Independence Township, and I, again, as a resident of Independence and a small business owner, you know, we look for creative ways to help businesses do well and make our township a better place. At the same time, I of course, and as part of the ZBA, am concerned about safety as well. And as I travel north on Sashaba, south of the building and traveling north past it, looking as Mr. Galley pointed out, it does go uphill, it does curve a little bit. As I look forward, I try to imagine what even a 3x3, a small sign would be. And to me, it certainly has the potential to block views of people traveling south and coming around that curve. So it appeared to me at its current location, even if it wasn't in the right-of-way, outside of the right-of-way, that I was concerned about safety. And so I did look for other opportunities that, you know, a sign could work there. And of course, I looked, and there's a really large sign on the building, which might not be visible from all angles, but certainly identifies the building and its use. There's probably opportunities to hang a sign on the building. There's probably opportunities to put the sign in the lawn area to the south and in different areas. So from a safety point of view, when I visited the site right away, I thought, this is concerning to me. This is more difficult to support because I am concerned about people, as it's been mentioned, traveling too fast on Sashba and having impaired angles of vision. I also agree with Mr. Sharl that from a jurisdiction point of view, if this sign is located, and I believe it is, within the right-of-way, the road right-of-way, it really is, I think, beyond our capacity to approve a sign in a location that essentially we don't have jurisdiction within. It's within the county right, or the county right-of-way. So at that point, you had some follow-up questions, but that's my current thoughts right now.
So, yeah, so originally when we came a couple of years ago, our parking lot was not done, of course, and they, for me to have that, a commercial area. Well, first of all, I'm the only hairdresser, so, and I asked the inspector ahead of time, I said, I do hair and I work at I lost my salon in Bloomfield, can I just come and do hair also? He's like, I don't see a reason why you can't, as long as you don't do nails or any other person working. I said, okay then, I'm just gonna put a chair there and do the hair and stay there. I cannot hire anyone there, I can't afford one, and so I'm basically the only person there, and as they know, I'm the only person there. So the other question was that the gentleman brought up, when they originally told me what to do and to get it all, signed up. So I took a picture or a video or a picture just before I got here, and this is what it looks like with my,
Please, thank you.
So, my lines were originally straight, so now that they're curved.
You angled the
We
parking,
angled them,
right?
and everything is all here is new. So when the cars back up, they don't back up straight. They back up this way, and we have an in and an out.
So what, for the audience, what the applicant is explaining is that the parking lines, the painted lines have been angled, so they essentially point diagonally. So it's essentially a one-way in, pull out, and to make the backup safer, is what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
And reading that, the minutes that Mr. Morocco pointed out, that's exactly what the conditions were.
One of the conditions are.
So,
Okay.
I see it.
Is there anything else, ma'am?
No, I just,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
I'll bring it back to the board for any additional questions or consideration.
I think with that, all the discussion that we've had, I think the best thing we can do for her is table this until a future date, have her meet with Brian, Building Department, over what's been there, what's done, and then rethink about the location of the sign and then come back to us. That's my,
I have one question for Mr. Ottman. So the sign that they have 3x3, would this site prohibit, that being hung on the building as like a marquee sign, or no?
They could, yeah, they could. It's not called a marquee anymore, but yeah, you can do that.
And would the height be the same, or can it be raised higher if it's on the building?
Yeah, it could. Realistically, it could go higher than obviously the 5 feet that they were proposing.
I mean, it's whatever, set it right at the eave height or the gutter
Yeah.
height,
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate for the board if she is open to tabling this, you mentioned the one comment about the lake and the residential area, could we set a sunset on that sign because it is in a residential area, that it is timed off at 11 p.m. or something like that, or no?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
a
not
reasonable
within our
condition, sure.
So, okay, that's it for now.
Any other comment? Mr. Auger, was that a motion or just a discussion.
I can make a motion.
If someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion in case 22-021 to table the request until a building department review is done to even see if it's a legal business and could stay there.
It'd be a postponement.
Pardon me?
It's postponement, not table, because table would take it to next month.
Okay, postpone.
In support of the motion?
Or can we talk about just the idea that right now, we believe that the proposal is not in our, it's not in our jurisdiction, or it's not for us to evaluate, so do we just reject the current proposal? And then advise,
My thought is that if we denied it, then she'd have to pay a new fee to come back this way. She wouldn't have to pay a new fee. The building department can look it over and may decide to change the location of the sign.
After the, if and after the amendment, or the motion was approved, I was gonna ask for an amendment to the motion to provide for the building department to provide clarification of the sign location, if in fact it's within the right of way. Doesn't seem as though anybody's gonna approve a sign within the right of way, but that could be part of the building department's function.
okay, so we could add that then?
I'll add that to the motion to clarify the location, to locate the sign.
Yeah, and if it's on the building, the cost thing kind of goes away because the power is in the building.
A little bit
so,
easier.
Yeah.
So we have a motion that's been amended. Do we have support for the motion?
I'll support Alan's motion with amendments.
Mr. Ottman, if we could have roll call, please?
Mr. Auger,
Yes.
Mr. Epping,
Yes.
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Charles,
Yes.
Mr. Zurich.
Yes.
So to be clear, the board motion to postpone your request, you heard a lot of feedback. It sounds like the next best course of direction is to meet with the building department and to clarify the current use as well as the location of the signpost down, whether or not that would even be permitted. May also be some good homework to work with or at least inquire within the county road department, if it is in fact within the road department, whether or not they would permit that. All right?
It's already there, so my problem is I don't understand this whole situation, so it's not
The-
even bigger than the old sign.
No, I appreciate that. The building department can help clarify any of those questions, but thank you very much. And what we're saying here by postponing is you'll have an opportunity to come back. There's just so many open questions right now, and some perhaps feedback that you've heard tonight that your application may change, it may not, but you certainly have the right to come back as soon as next meeting. All right?
That works.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to case 22-022, Shane and Courtney Denton, petitioner for a 30-foot front yard setback variance in order to permit construction of a new home on a newly split lot, southwest corner of Church and Hillside Drive, which is an R1A, single-family residential zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Shane Denton, this is my wife Courtney Denton, and we bought the property on
Could you
Zero
give us
Church
your
Street.
address or your application address?
It's just listed as 0 Church Street.
Okay, and that's like where you receive your mail now?
No, 7907 Bridge Valley.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, so as you see on this one, you have another page on this PDF that should show all 3 lots. Nope, keep going.
That's it.
There's just those 3 plans. It's the current,
That's the split that was approved.
Is yours parcel C?
So per parcel B, it's not the right piece
is
of
this
paper.
parcel here?
Yeah, so on the Hillside Drive side of that, we're on the corner lot for parcel B. So I have a 40-foot setback from Church and from Hillside. What we're asking for is, it's actually not 30, it's a 20-foot setback from Hillside Drive. So the front of our house will face Church, the garage side will face Hillside. And if you look at,
Brian, could you go back to that?
It's actually listed as, it's 10
This
feet
isn't a
from
large-
the easement.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What did you say?
He just mentioned that it's 20 feet from Hillside. It's actually 10 feet from the easement. That's where setbacks are measured. So that's why it's a 30-foot setback variance.
So,
oh, understood, okay,
so that I'm clear, and so the audience is clear, this is Hillside Drive.
yes,
We're
correct,
talking about parcel B. There typically should be a 40-foot setback between the road easement and the property line, and you're asking for a 30-foot exception to that, so that this setback line would actually be 10 foot from the easement as opposed to 40. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay.
So, and if you look at other properties on the street or coming off Hillside, which is again, it's just a private easement for a couple houses, 6930 and 6950 Hillside, both have properties that are 20 feet off of that road as well. So it'd be nothing different than what's already been approved on there. That's pretty much it.
And so fairly recently, this was one large piece of property. It's been split into three pieces of property, three parcels. Were you guys the ones that split that, or did you buy this after it was split?
No, we bought it and split it.
You bought it and split it. And so when you bought it and split it, you knew the ordinance, or you probably at least understood the nature of setbacks and you know, the kind of the spatial dimensions that it was currently when you purchased the property and that it was when you split
Yeah,
it?
correct.
Okay. Okay. And in what you're saying now is you want to build on this, and your building footprint is larger than those new setbacks.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. All right, thank you. We'll start at this end. Mr. Sharp.
I think the large amount of crowd that we have here tonight is regards to this.
Well, we'll go, do we want to hear from the public first before we
That
do?
would be my opinion.
All right. Everybody good with that, to go to the public and then bring it back to the board? Or would you like?
No, I think the board ought to talk about this first.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Mr. Sharp.
So you actually split this property,
Correct.
okay? But if you split it, knowing that there was a 40-foot side yard setback, or front yard in this particular case because it's on a corner, you in essence created a lot that you had envisioned putting a house on that wouldn't fit in there.
Which is the reason we're asking for the variance. And again,
Why create a lot that you couldn't build on by ordinance? And secondly,
Well,
if we had a plot plan of where your house was gonna be and what it looked like, you know, it might be a little bit easier for us because we're looking at a line on a piece of paper. We're not looking at where your driveway is and how this all fits together.
So future house is on that document right there. So, again, driveway would come in from this side,
Or you're gonna bring the driveway in off the private road.
yes.
Why don't you, if you could head back up to the podium, just so that we can hear everything.
But according to this, the house is 20, well, it's 20 feet off the right-of-way line. According to the thing that you just gave me, it says 20 feet proposed,
Not 10.
not 10.
So, well, Mr.
But it doesn't
Charles,
matter, you're asking for a 30-foot variance. We can't really look at this and say, well, that's where you're gonna build it. There's a lot of cars that drive in and out of there, and you will be backing into that road.
It's a private easement that's actually on my property, and there's 3 houses on Hillside Drive.
Correct, but they have legal rights to go ingress and egress through there.
Agreed. And it'd be no different than 6930 and 6950, which are closer to the road than I would be, and they would also have to back up.
Which is, what are 6930 and 6950?
Hillside Drive.
There's 3 houses down on the bottom here?
Correct.
So Jim, I just want to clarify one thing or ask a question. One thing you said is that the lot was split, and the question was asked, why would you split a lot where you couldn't build a house? I think,
Well, I
maybe
mean,
more-
it
I think
split a
maybe-
lot without ordinance, without variance.
but I think maybe more accurately, a house could be built on this. It just should be built within the setback
Oh,
line.
there's no question, the 65-foot width and the depth that looks like, I don't know, 120 feet. You can certainly build a house in there.
Alright.
So-
Yeah, it's,
So a home could be built, it's just a bigger home wants to be
I
built.
don't know my scale, so.
Can I see that again?
When else? Can I go to Mr. Gailey and we'll come back if we
Yeah,
need to?
fine.
Go ahead.
I
Alan,
mean, I
when
kind of
you're done
echo
with
the thoughts of Mr. Charles, and my comment was also gonna be that I don't have nearly enough information to approve a blanket variance on that lot without, you know, a site plan and drawings. You know, the petitioner did provide something, essentially it's a large box placed on the plan, which has a different dimension than what's asked for, so I just really don't have enough information to make a educated decision on it.
It is the envelope without variance is a 65 by 90, I think it was 92.
The possible size of the home.
Correct, right now.
Right now, this property does not have a deed to the lake, no lake access, no, it's just a piece of land, right?
Correct.
So then I can describe this as a property that's not on the lake, right?
No, it's on the corner of Church and Hillside.
I guess what I'm driving at is, a lot of times when we deal with exceptions like this, it's because of a historical property line that's been there and it's on the lake and it's, lake lots are narrow and there's special complications. Whereas here, it's kind of a newer condition that was created by splitting it into 3 pieces. I guess my first thought is I have a concern here.
Well, I mean, you guys mentioned safety. Jim, you brought up that backing up. It's the same safety concerns as the other properties. So I don't see how that is any different, how,
Well, I appreciate it. Hillside and Sashaba are two different conditions.
what, Sashaba, what? Nobody's on Sashaba here.
I thought you were referring to the previous case.
No, I'm saying
Oh.
where Jim brought
Existing
up.
Well,
homes.
our role here is not to, look at other homes in the area or,
I'm just saying there's a precedent set on this easement
Well-
already for that.
that's not how this board considers. This board considers the current conditions in the current ordinance and understands the hardship and whether or not those hardships were self-created or if they're part of something as Mr. Zurich points out, something that is historically part of that land.
Yeah, and I wanted
And-
to split this
hang
because
on, hang
my
on,
parents
hang
are
on.
getting older.
Please. So far, and we're gonna open up to the board, so far, we've predominantly heard questions about more information. And so what ideally we'll identify here is what information is needed, if any additional information is needed. The plan that really wasn't even submitted for public review, but shows a situation that seems to need a 20-foot variance, and yet the variance being required is a 30-foot variance. So that's a big difference into itself. Not to suggest that this board may or may not even consider that, but so far what we've uncovered here is maybe there's some additional information that we need to have. So we're going to continue going through the board. We'll ask you for some additional comment. We'll open up to the public. We'll bring you back, and we'll keep progressing like that. Alan?
I don't have really much to add over Mr. Sherrill and Mr. Zurich and that. When I first looked at this, I'm familiar with the parcel. Being a new split, I think this is self-created, and it's not something this board should consider. That's it.
Jim, did you have a follow-up question before we bring it back to the board?
No.
Okay. At this point, we'll ask for, if you guys could just take a seat, we'll ask for some public comment. Anybody who would like to speak on this, please come up, introduce yourself with your name and your address, and we'll bring the applicants back up, and we'll go from there. Good
My
evening.
name is John Mussett. I live on 6930 Hillside Drive. which is the southeast corner of what's called Hillside Drive. And when I looked at that application, I agree with you. When I applied for my variance, I had to have a whole site plan and what we're asking for and all that. And I know his comments about us being close to the easement. I think what he's forgetting, that is hillside. And that hill drops off 40 foot to the lake. So we really couldn't move the house any further back when I built it, okay? Like I said, that's about it. When I looked at it, I don't see any reason he couldn't build whatever house he wants to build on the property he had, you know, because it was 2.5 acres. And then my other question is, they're asking for that variance, but is that variance only for parcel, you know, parcel B? Or are they planning something to go all the way down on the other parcel, parcel C?
Right now, the application's just for parcel B.
Yeah, okay. I think you guys covered it, and thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. My name is Carolyn Bush. I live at 6925 West Church Street. My property is adjacent to parcel B to the east.
Okay.
I've lived in my home for 35 years, so I'm well versed in the area. My property is also a part of Green Acres subdivision, which was platted in 1957, 65 years ago, incorporated in 1965. So it's a long-established development with many longtime residents, 25 years, 35 years, 40, and even 50-plus years. Our homes were built with 40-foot setbacks without any issues. There's good reason for 40-foot setbacks, and so should remain as such for this particular parcel. I raised my family in a home with a 40-foot setback, as did many neighbors, and we have all done just fine. New development should be kept consistent with existing homes and surrounding neighborhoods. Number two, I'm very concerned about the safety issue as it pertains to emergency vehicles, such as fire trucks having to use Hillside Drive easement. Should there be a fire in any of the existing homes on Hillside Drive, God forbid that should happen. And number three, coupled with my concern for the safety issue is the traffic I see, and I have seen for 35 years, on the Hillside Drive easement, used by residents, visitors, garbage trucks, postal trucks, UPS and FedEx trucks, etc. The paved portion of the Hillside Drive easement can accommodate one vehicle at a time. If you have two vehicles coming from both directions, one vehicle stays on the pavement and one vehicle drives on the grass. Nobody backs up. What happens to the traffic if this setback variance is granted? What happens to the traffic if a fence is erected on the petitioner's property on the side of the Hillside Drive easement? Where's the traffic going to go then? If the driveway faces Hillside Drive, as the petitioner says, that will add more traffic to an already not very good situation on Hillside Drive easement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bush.
And could I just ask if the people in the audience who are here for this particular case could raise their hands, please? These are all of the residents that are very concerned about what is happening. Thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to address the board? Please just come up.
Looks like family.
Good evening.
I am Tim Wickersham. I own the lot C and A.
You own C and A, okay.
You
That's
guys
not
are
what the
asking,
application says.
You're asking for a 30, it's really a 20-foot setback. There's a
Excuse me,
40-foot
Tim.
setback on the
Their
front.
application says that they own it.
They must have the wrong application.
It's the one that was turned in.
We need
Here's
his
the one
address,
that's
his address too.
No, it wasn't.
That's the variance. The
This is
variance
the
on
doc,
it?
the
Sir,
documents
sir.
that were turned in by your wife,
Yeah.
and I
it's
believe
this
that's your
document.
daughter. No, it wasn't. These are the documents right here.
These are the documents turned in. to
Unfortunately,
Should
that's
we-
not,
Should we return, should we resubmit it?
well, that's not what was turned in, and the packet is online of exactly what
Sir.
was turned in, so.
Let me just show you.
All right, thank you.
Because that's what he's really asking.
Well, please,
that's-
Well, that's
please,
what this is.
please, let's get some order here. Why don't you stand at the
Okay,
podium?
No problem.
We have a process,
I
the
understand.
township, every community across the country has a process where we publish information that was received. So whether this is what he's asking for, what was published, and what we're obligated to review is what was published on the internet, what was delivered to the township. And so that's what we're reviewing tonight. If we want to amend the application, like we've done in other cases, this could be postponed and we could do that. But right now, we're really obligated to
Okay.
review. Now,
So on
but-
the
but hang on.
application, what does it ask for, sir? A
So-
20 or a 30?
As, it asks for a 30-foot,
The
that's what,
documents you provided, the surveys, asked for a 30. This was turned in on 9/7/22, and there was a check that was at 3:00 PM is when these
Okay.
exact documents were turned in by your wife, and I believe that's your daughter. I'm
They
not
need to
sure.
be resubmitted because it's a 20-foot setback,
okay,
okay? Just like everybody else has.
okay. Well, we can consider, or the applicant can request that we postpone that before we get ready to take, is there anything else in addition to just that clarification
They
that
were
you'd like to talk
asking,
about?
The board was asking for plans for the actual house. You actually have a package on that site plan where the house can be built. So they're asking, they have two setbacks. You have two 40-foot setbacks, one on Church, one on the easement.
That's correct.
Correct. We're asking for only one 40-foot setback.
We are asking for one 30-foot setback.
I'm
variance.
asking for 20, but on,
See, it's getting confusing,
yeah,
isn't it?
so why don't we resubmit?
Okay, well, understood. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address this? Thank you.
Do we have his street address? I don't believe we
Sir,
do.
sir, can we get your address too, just so we've got it in the minutes?
7400 Deer Lake Road.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Dan Toth, 6968 West Church. And my home is directly across the street from that parcel. And I think the board actually nailed it. We had very few details about this. We weren't even aware of the split of both these properties. And we actually welcome new families into the neighborhood, and we welcome the Dentons. We're not sure if this is an investment opportunity or what it is. But when I came here, I wasn't sure, you know, I had about as much information as you did, as this simple plat map. But my concern was we just got done, each of us spent an average of $9,000. We're still paying for it, in fact, for a whole completely new road on West Church. And my request was to the building department, what assurances would we have that the road would be, when there is construction? Because we realize that the property's gonna be developed. We understand that. We just want it to be in keeping with the subdivision. So are there any assurances or some type of a bond that township or the board could place on it so, you know, the road is put back the way it was when they cut it for the sewer and water and the other utilities? That was pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, how does the township handle bonds and security of the infrastructure around an area of construction?
For a single-family home, we collect a building permit bond. That's really just to ensure completion of the project. So we don't have any mechanisms in place to, if they have to do I believe there's taps already there, but I can't confirm that. But that's all handled by Department of Public Works.
Okay,
Yeah, we have no control over that.
okay, thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak on this issue tonight? Sir? You guys are orderly, we appreciate it. Normally, there's a line.
Good evening, Mark Brancha, 6677 Langle Drive. I just live right around the corner from there. I'm not opposed to them building on this parcel. However, I do think the lot that they bought and they split it up, they should be able to build on the lot that they created. And I think it's a little bit much to come in and ask for a 30-foot non-conforming ordinance in order to build there, especially when they did the lot split themselves. They should build according to the ordinances of Independence Township and not proliferate non-conforming. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Sir?
My name is Jason Trowak. I actually live on 6950 Hillside Drive. There's really not much more to say. I share the same concerns as all my neighbors, especially in the sense that these are newly split lots they're asking for a variance on something that they actually created themselves.
Thank you. Is there anybody else tonight that would like to speak on this issue? Hearing none, Brian, is there someone new online?
There is, yeah, one person.
I see one person online. I can't read your name, but if you'd like to speak on this application, if you could let us know that. You may be on mute if you are talking. All right, I'm going to bring it back to the board at this point. If that person online comes off mute and wants to speak, just please interrupt us. Gentlemen, we've heard some, I just wanted to clarify, is we had one gentleman approach who indicated that he owns parcel A and C. Certainly that they could have been sold since this application was made, but on this application that's been submitted, there's question number 5. Do you have control over any of the other properties adjoining this site? In this application, the box yes was checked and indicated parcel A and parcel C. So at least the application indicates that the applicants control A, B, and C, and that they have done that since May 16th of 2022. So,
My only thought after hearing all the remarks is I think the request should be denied. I can foresee people coming back to the board on C. Maybe A is pretty tight, but on C, requesting for a variance. This is a new split. I'd like to see them go back to the drawing board and make it work within our ordinance.
okay. Any other comments or questions, gentlemen? Alan, I tend to agree. I look at, we do as a board, especially around some of the different areas, and certainly this is an older area in our community, have lots of record of non-conformance. This is a brand new lot that was platted or subdivided according to our ordinance. It has a building area within the envelope of about 6,000 square feet. So certainly a home of nearly any size could be built within that building envelope. It would just take some architectural design to do that. So given some of the safety concerns and just the ability that in my opinion, this does seem to be self-created, both from incorrectly splitting the lots based on their goals and objectives, or designing a house that doesn't fit within that pretty generous building envelope. It seems as though there are alternatives, and traditionally our board looks for alternatives to stay within the zoning ordinance. So with that, unless we have other comments, I will make a motion that in the case of 20-22, that this board does not grant or denies the application for a 30-foot front yard variance as requested.
I'll support.
With support. Brian, if we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Epping?
Yes.
Mr. Galley?
Yes.
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mr. Zurich?
Yes.
Mr. Auger?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone's civility in tonight's meeting. I appreciate you all coming. I will call our third case, case number 22-023, William Leach, petitioner requesting a 20 square foot variance from section 5.06A3 within our ordinance in order to construct a new accessory building at 4640 Sashaba Road, which is an R1A single family. Sir, if we could wait just a minute, just to allow the room to clear.
The last time I looked there, the sewer open here. I don't see anything in this here.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other one, we were questioning, I mean, bring that.
If this was.
Anybody need a break?
I would probably.
You guys need a break or anything?
Let me, I can look real quick.
John?
We're gonna take just a 2-minute break.
John?
Go ahead, Jim.
I'm sorry, I'm fine.
Oh, okay. Thank you, guys.
Requirement, I need to shave 1 foot off of the building for the length of the building, which would give me 20 square feet.
Making it 15 foot by.
We'd make it 15 by 20, 300 square foot. Now I get into custom trusses. Menards has quoted me material for the job. They have trusses in stock. They'll ship them from the store, save me money. If I go to a 15-foot truss, it's a custom truss. Truss company ships it to the property. Not only that, I start cutting plywood. I'm cutting a foot off each strip of plywood that go horizontally on each end of the building. I have a neighbor that just north of me has a 20 by 20 square foot garage on a lot half the size of mine. So he's got 400 square foot on a single, I'm on a double lot, as you can see. He's on half of that, and he's got 400 square foot. He doesn't meet the 10-foot setback either side.
Sir,
That's my case.
I appreciate it. Is that your garage on the corner lot, or is that not your lot?
Negative, that's the one I just described as being a neighbor, and it is a 20 by 20. It's about 400 square foot on the corner lot.
With no house on it?
And I'm seeking 320 on a double lot.
Okay. Yeah, that was,
Is there a house on that lot?
Negative.
was there a house on that?
Predates the ordinance?
Either predates the ordinance or was built without a permit.
Looks like it might predate
Probably,
the
it's probably
ordinance.
owned by
Pretty
one
old
of the
garage.
other homes on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
It's a pretty old ordinance. Well, that was gonna be my question for you. What are you gonna do with that garage?
Doesn't own it.
But you don't own it.
I can't do anything with it.
Yeah. So you have a 2-car garage internal to your home,
It's 2-car
and
attached,
you're gonna
yes.
build, this looks like a garage, but it's essentially a storage building in the back, and it's an accessory
Yeah.
structure.
I have a 9-foot door and I can put a vehicle in it with that length and those dimensions.
And it's 10 foot, it meets our other standard setbacks, it's 10 foot off the side
You are
property
correct.
line, greater than 20 foot off the rear property line.
Correct.
The home 2 houses down, they probably get away with that bigger structure because they don't have an attached garage, right? We're dealing with the maximum allowable because of his garage calculation?
Well, it all depends on square footage of the lot, and that one looks smaller. I mean, regardless, I don't know when that was built.
Could predate as well.
It likely
It's pretty
does, because if you're under 15,000 square feet, the lot itself, then you're looking at 300 square feet maximum on accessory size.
Yeah.
Are you taking both lots into consideration?
Yep.
Because I'm 100 foot wide by what, 139 deep, 137?
Yeah, but it's only 84 in the back, so it's.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
Our assessing department has all the calculations on the exact size of the lot.
Is there any tolerance on that number? 300, is it plus or minus anything? 5% or?
.001.
That's why you're here tonight, the tolerance.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because if you're slightly over that number, then you get up to 950 maximum. So it's, you know, anything, I think it's a half acre over, essentially, gives you 950.
A greater
When,
size.
when
Max.
was, what date are you saying when you say pre-ordinance?
Well, it'd be before, the last time our ordinance was codified was 2003, 2008, something like that.
I
But
know-
even before that, going back, it would have been 85.
I know that that large garage there was there 50 years ago
Okay.
on that lot.
Yeah, because the old ordinance, the really old ordinance, that went back into the early 80s, actually.
Yeah, because I'm familiar with that house from a long time ago.
If the walls could talk, Alan.
You betcha.
How will you access this, and what are you planning on putting in there?
Well, it's gonna be large enough that I could put a vehicle in it, but I have a quad, I have snow blowers, I have generators, my garage is currently full. I can't get my truck in the garage. I need to get a vehicle in the garage for winter time, and we're senior citizens, the wife and I, and we need some shelter in our vehicles.
And have you spoken to your neighbor to the south? Because it is, you know, it is within the
Well-
ordinance in terms of its
See,
location.
I'm not infringing on the property line.
No, I understand that, but it certainly will impact them. Now, they've got it looks like a shed in their yard as well. I'm just wondering,
No, there's no shed in their yard. There's a
No.
concrete slab
Oh, I
that is
see.
in violation of the 10-foot setback.
okay.
Slabs are allowed to be up to the property line.
And Ken, I guess I interrupted you. Your question was, how are you gonna get to this if you're gonna put a vehicle back there?
Yeah, I was just a little bit concerned on how, you know, you drive a car back there.
I have 12 foot between my house and the property line. My neighbor is about 5 foot from the property line. You can see that green line, he sits right on the property line. In fact, his fence is 8 foot on my property.
So you're gonna have to
I
move the fence to
discovered
get your
that
car
by
back there.
Sir?
You're gonna have to move the fence to get your car back.
No, I won't. The garage sits here, his fence comes back in this direction. I measure my 10 feet from the property line, not the fence. So I have
The fence kind of angles.
easily
Yeah,
12 foot to get a vehicle,
Yeah.
a driveway back there.
Okay. All right.
His fence angles onto your property more the farther back you go, correct?
Yes, correct.
That's how it looks on the overhead?
At the back of the property, it's 7 foot onto mine.
Yeah.
Why don't we formalize this a little bit? Brian, do you have any other additional questions, thoughts?
I didn't really have any other additional questions,
Now the-
you know, other than Mr. Ottman confirming the dimensions and the requirements and such, which he has, so. I
Based
mean,
on
you know,
our garage ordinance.
Yeah.
Ken, any other additional questions or thoughts?
I want to thank you for submitting some of the details that you submitted, and there's no plan changes. It looks like it's a vinyl sided garage.
It's gonna match the house,
It's gonna match the
color and
house.
trim. Like my neighbor had the intention of building a shed on that slab you see on the property, but when I informed him he wasn't 10 foot from the property line, he thought, uh-oh. I told him I had no intention to take the fence down. I just need to get that 10-foot setback.
Or Alan, any questions or thoughts, or Ken?
Uh,
No, I'm good.
No, I believe that it'll look a lot neater and cleaner for the whole neighborhood, even though the lot behind you is vacant, I presume.
Yes.
I like things undercover, makes them last longer. I'm not opposed to the small square footage increase. It's for storage of equipment, not for vehicles, so he has plenty of room east and west to get back to it, so I'm not opposed to it.
And Jim?
I have no problem.
Thank you. All right, I'll bring it back to the board for any consideration.
I'll make a motion in case 22-023 to approve the petitioner's request as advertised.
We have a motion, do we have support?
Second.
motion and support. Brian, if we could have roll call, please?
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Charles,
Yes.
Mr. Zurich,
Yes.
Mr. Auger,
Yes.
Mr. Epping.
Yes. Good luck, work with the building department, please, on your permits. I should ask, and sometimes we make it part of the motion, but it's always part of the township's policy, is to ensure that you are 10-foot, and make sure that the building department will come out and ensure that. So just like your neighbor, if they pour that pad in the wrong location, you will be asked to move it. So it's worth having a survey or having, those corners identified prior to it being poured, just to make sure it is accurate, especially if that fence is off. We want to measure it from the property line.
I've located a couple of irons.
Perfect.
It's
Perfect.
fine.
You can move
Been
it
a few
further,
days looking those.
you can move it further into your lot, you just can't move it closer to the property line.
Correct, thank you. All right, good luck, sir, thank
So where
you.
do we go from here now?
I will sign off on the zoning verification that you got an approval, and then it'll be in the building department's hands to issue the, they'll do plan review and issue the permit.
Duration of time would be?
Next week, probably.
Very good.
Thank you,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Gentlemen,
Have a good night, drive carefully. With that, gentlemen, we'll finish new business. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. There's minutes in the packet from August 3rd. I was not at that meeting, so I will recuse myself from the minutes, but if
You
there are any...
don't have to recuse yourself if you read them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't have
Yeah,
to.
you can attest to.
Okay, there
I'll
you go.
make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of August the 3rd, 2022 as presented.
I will second that, but I have one amendment. If you look at the last case that we had, case number 22-020, it says board member moved. We need a board member.
Would that mean zoning board member?
Yeah, it just says board member moved in case.
If you look at the other ones, it always says which one of us made the motion.
Oh, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
I'll have to watch the video and figure that out. So,
Should we postpone approving these, or do we approve them with that condition that
you
you'll
can
fill that in?
approve it with the condition.
I'll modify it to my motion to make the necessary change and put the motioner's name in.
Okay.
I go
Support
on
that.
that.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes of August 3rd with that clarification that'll be forthcoming? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. With that, with the meeting open, do we have any discussion?
Well, I would like to bring back up the case on Sashaba about the sign, because I wasn't at the meeting, I missed it, I was out of town. And this
In
was before
2019?
The White Lake Commons
yeah.
sign is what I'm referring to.
Oh,
um,
yes.
Being right up at the property line. It's a definite safety factor with living on the street, biking on White Lake Road and that. It's a very dangerous location where that sign is at. I wish that they would have moved it, but they replaced it.
It was
as-
just in an accident and it was just replaced.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, we allowed him to reconstruct it in its exact configuration.
that's why I'm saying, when we approve these motions and approve things, think of the consequences down the road, because it's forever.
Right.
And
Not familiar with
I
that sign.
really am
That's right, at the Neiman's
astounded that
Market.
White Lakes Common
Entering.
didn't take safety into
Oh,
consideration,
oh.
because
Off of White Lake.
Yeah,
Common.
yeah,
there's at least 2 accidents a week. And I'm not saying the sign is the cause.
Yeah, that's a rough roadway there.
It's a bad situation there, but traffic has rapidly increased since that shopping center was developed. Things need to be changed. The planning commission needs to review that whole site, but they don't have the authority unless the shopping center comes back before them. That's it.
It is a good point, though, because I think we as a board do a good job of looking at each individual case. We look at hardship, we look at unique conditions, and we do often talk about safety, but it's a good reminder that, the ordinance, and our job really at the end of the day is to support the ordinance and look to stay within the ordinance. And the ordinance, in very, very large part, was to protect health and safety. So, when we make a deviation or variance from the ordinance, it's an important factor.
Thank you.
Anybody else, guys?
I got two comments. I was surprised to see Morocco come in. I'm a little bit familiar.
Anything else?
And then, no, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right, with that, next on our agenda is adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:15.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are
Okay,
adjourned.
now you can speak freely.
Well, let's give it a